will never tell you something that I either don't know or I've actually experienced. And that's one of the things I've experienced, is that you definitely have to balance out any kind of hard discipline with love. And if you have a good wife, or if you're the female listening, you have a good husband, make sure the two of you are team playing. But most importantly, if it's you should do that. There's a time of being disciplined, there's a time of being loving, and you have to show that quickly before you lose that person.
Okay, let's go.
Hello, this is Dr. Bryant, your host for Coaching to Change. Thank you for tuning in. I am here because I want to provide you some perspective regarding coaching, as well as some of the experiences and things that I've done regarding my clients. If you have watched any of my previous shows, you have basically listened or watched me talk about people who have had mental breakdowns. I've talked about leadership. And historically, I've had podcast shows in previous titles, one of which was titled Dr. Bryant Speaks. That was my very first podcast show. On that show specifically, I addressed a lot of veteran issues, veteran concerns. We talked about different things related to PTSD, suicide, etc. Over time, we've learned that the topics were a bit not so much clinical, but the perception was kind of clinical. In addition to that, it really focused just specifically to veterans and some first responders. So we've adjusted things, and then we made a new title with a new perspective. That one was called Field Talk. Now, Field Talk was, again, a little bit focused on veteran concerns, but it had a more broad audience, because the idea was that we felt that some of the topics overlapped into the bigger issue, which is trauma. So since then, I have evolved and come to the point where, as a master trainer, as a coach, as a person who has hundreds of hours in working with people, I came up with a method that I felt that could improve and provide some more insight. And therefore, I just felt that, you know what, I want to be able to share that. And that's where I came up with Coaching to Change, because I felt that although we're really good with coaching, with our audience, with the people that we work with, all the coaches out there doing an amazing job, I felt that, you know what, let's take it up a notch. And I wanted to start that with myself. So therefore, Coaching to Change has evolved to the point where I'm providing insights on how a person can take control back. I am a person who is the first client. And with that, I have always said things that I have learned. I've taken basically pebbles of everything that I have learned from different people, the therapists, psychiatrists, psychologists, etc. And I felt at this point in time, there's something more to be gained. And that's something that's not just for me to give back to the powers of those sitting across the tablet. I want to be able to have some ownership. I want to be able to learn, pick up, and take some of that information and being able to dissect it and understand it and think, how can I personally be able to take responsibility? Because at the end of the day, it is me. And nobody knows me better than myself. So that's where Coaching to Change has evolved, by helping individuals understand and being able to take what they learn, take what they pick up, take what they hear, and being able to process it and being able to run with it. And although I'm not saying do this alone, absolutely not. You definitely need the guidance of other people. You still need a coach. You still need a therapist. You still need professional support. I get that. However, you still have a responsibility to yourself to be able to understand who you are and be able to process and be able to understand, and most importantly, be able to live with your decisions. Now, every decision that you make is not going to always be perfect. We are human beings and we are all different. And because of that, the things that you're going to learn from another individual, whoever that person may be, coach, therapist, parent, friend, it doesn't matter. They're giving you advice based on what they may feel is best. But at the end of the day, what is it that you feel? What is working? You know yourself better than anybody, so you have to be able to understand exactly how that is making you feel. So there are individuals out there who don't have that level of confidence. And the reason why they don't have that confidence is because of their self-esteem. And that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about self-esteem. Forgive me for the wine and the cigar, but this allows me to relax, allows me to calm down, allows me to think, it allows me to just talk to you. There's not a whole lot of formality other than what's been done behind the scenes. Behind the scenes, I do the research, I do the homework, I take all the years of what I've been doing over time, I take with my own personal experiences, and I take what I'm learning right now in my psychology doctorate program. Yes, people are going, wait a minute, I thought you're already a doctor. Yeah, I am. I actually have two. But the thing is, there's never a denial of pursuit. Again, some of the things we're going to talk about relates to that. I mean, for me, self-esteem is something that I am challenged with and I have to fight with. There's things about myself that I'm not always happy about. And I have to learn, how do I fight that? How do I manage that? So again, I'm going to talk to you utilizing myself as the first client and to help you understand the importance. I have a client, for instance, and I already have her permission. Her name is Lelaine, and she's a wonderful young lady, and she struggles with self-esteem. And her struggle comes from a lot of things that she's had to endure in her life, including lack of relationships with people that are supposed to be important to her. So over time, when that happens, people struggle with their self-esteem, because if there are individuals who are supposed to love you unconditionally, how does that impact your self-esteem? If you're in a relationship and you're supposed to be involved with somebody who's supposed to have a certain level of affection and suddenly they do not, how does that affect your self-esteem? I mean, but at the end of the day, you have to do a reality check and think about, how important is that person? Who are they? If you have a girlfriend that you're dating for only a matter of weeks, who are they? How important are they in the whole spectrum of your life? Now, the challenge is that your parents, a sibling, a relative, they're going to have much more of an impact. I get that, because that's a bloodline. But I'm going to tell you something. Sometimes our bloodlines are not always the best circumstance or best, people to count on. We have people in our bloodline that will let us down. And I mean, I'm sure I probably have my own relatives who probably say the same about me. We're people. We're human beings. We are raised, we grow up with experiences. Life gives us experiences. This is what happens. So nobody is perfect, but how you allow it to apply and impact you, that's going to be important. Do you have things about you that you don't like? Think about that for a second. Social media is crazy. Our grandparents didn't have this challenge. Our grandparents basically especially if you go back to the great grandparents, but they didn't have this whole world of visibility into people who walk around looking like models every day. Today we have Instagram models, we have celebrities. I mean, they all look perfect, regardless if they're photoshopped or not, but they got millions of dollars where they can get all the best surgeries, going to the spa on a weekly basis to rub out the cellulite. I mean, these are the things that people are being influenced by. And the thing is, how are you allowing that to impact you? You may feel like, wow, that person on the other side of that photo looks so perfect, and I wish I had his or her nose. But think about it for a second. There's some things we just cannot change, but that makes us unique. See, as a developmental health coach, one of the things I love about what I do is that the platform is on mental health. And one of the things about mental health is that we are all different. We're different. Everything from the beginning to the present makes us so unique. So why do we stop there and worrying about how big our nose is, or how big our lips are, or how, much we weigh, or how big our buttocks is, or how small? Let's go the opposite, because apparently these days bigger is better, I guess. But you truly don't know exactly what that person is going through or what they have given up. But if it is something that you can change, if it is something that's not just based on physical, then make the change. I'm doing that right now. And again, I always give my own personal examples, and I sacrifice myself, and I'm very transparent. So things about me I don't like, I'm going to make the change. Time goes by fast, and you just have to commit to it. Again, I crossed over 50. There's no way I would have agreed with you if you talked to me 10 years ago and said, I'm going to go back and get another doctorate. There is no way. I remember when I got my executive MBA, and the idea of getting my PhD was not something I thought about. I was good. I was an executive consultant. I was doing well. I had my business. I was making good money, had a house, married. Everything was looking good. And I was content with an executive MBA. But then I got an opportunity to teach at a university. And as I'm teaching, I realized some of my fellow teachers had these doctorate level degrees, and I would go to the graduation and their robes and their caps looked different from mine. I would see students graduating and they would be getting their doctorates. I wanted to teach grad level. I didn't want to teach undergrad anymore. Well, you can't do that if you only have a master's. So guess what? I made a change. I committed to it, made a change, got into the program, and I was able to get my PhD, my very first doctorate. Now, again, I'm done. I am done. I defended my dissertation. I'm good. And truth be told, there are some things about having that doctorate degree that I absolutely regret. In the beginning, it was all about the financial commitment. I was $157,000, no, more than that. No, it was about $157,000 in debt, or I owed. I was making payments, but I was hurting. But the problem is that this is something that I had in my budget that's going to basically cost me for another decade or so. Seriously, not counting the compounded interest on it. So this is what I had. This was worth it? I don't think so. Not based on the, the turnaround of the benefit. Because the only thing, again, it got me was that I could teach grad school. Because honestly, in the workforce, it hurt me. People always felt I was overeducated. I was competing for jobs and people just felt that I was overeducated and they didn't hire me. So in retrospect, I regret getting that PhD. Now, down the road, it somehow started to level out, because when I started writing and I started getting into other areas of my career, that PhD somehow validated who I was and the knowledge I had. And then it started to sort of turn around. Now, I can't tell you, unfortunately, if the money was worth it, the debt, the school bill, because one of our presidents waived it out. And as a veteran, They basically said, you know what, you don't have to pay anymore. The government forgives you. So I'm good. No more debt. But my point is, I wanted to do this. I wanted to commit. I wanted to make a change. My self-esteem was hitting me because I was seeing individuals that I felt either was not as smart as me, or I felt that I could do better, or I wanted to do better. And so I committed. Moving forward, I started getting to other things, and I started pursuing other things, and then I pursued another option. And I continued to pursue options. That's one of the reasons why I became a coach, one of the reasons why I became a medical doctor. I started pursuing things because I wanted to make a change. My self-esteem, although it wasn't fully tarnished, it still, I just didn't quite feel right. Now, I'm not going to go into too much specifics because, to be honest, my self-esteem ties into a lot of other challenges that I have. And if you follow me on my social media or read my books here, you'll see that Dr. Brian has other things that's going on inside him. And the education part is a wonderful distraction for me. It gives me something that I control, and I can control it. That feeds into my motivation, feeds into my distraction, feeds into my self-esteem. It feeds into so many things. Give me a purpose, give me something to do, and it allows me to continue moving. So again, that's another podcast, or have talked about this in the past. But again, there's an element of self-esteem involved that allows me to continue to move, continue to go. And again, time goes fast. Time goes fast. And now here I am at it again. Now I am taking what I do by talking to you to another level. And I'm doing that by getting my psychology degree. So being a triple threat is only going to allow me to have that much more knowledge to basically reciprocate it right back. And that is actually kind of exciting because it allows me to have that much more information, that much more knowledge, and applying that to what I feel is important. Okay, so let's talk about, again, the whole self-esteem aspect. What happens? What's going on with people who are suffering from that? What has caused them to lose that? I don't have specific data on when, but there was this time period where bullying was the talk of what everybody was saying. It was on the tip of everybody's tongue. And, bullying can come from all different elements. And even, and I think about it, even myself, I was bullied. We didn't have a term for it back then, but wearing glasses to school, being a nerd, I was bullied. So when somebody called me Four Eyes, which is the most common thing you say with somebody who wears glasses. And then when you have thick glasses, you're called Coke bottles. That was another name that I had to endure. And the interesting thing is, I think that's the first time I've ever said that out loud, because it was just something that I suppressed. I suppressed it. Did it impact me? I think so. My mother would tell me how many glasses that I've went through because I had basically always broke them. Well, I break them because I'm always putting them in my pocket because I was embarrassed. And I would also, in my defense, I love to play basketball. So I would put the glasses behind the pole of the basketball hoop. Now, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. I try to put it somewhere safe, but unfortunately, for whatever reason, somebody tends to find out where those glasses are and steps on them. I don't know how you get behind the pole, but it is what it is. And I would go through so many glasses. And she has to go and buy me more. I have to see. I was a pretty good student in school, so I can imagine that she was buying them regularly. But I say that because, when people are attacking you, for whatever reason. And some are very good at it. Some are very strategic in how they will bully you. And it could be at work. It could be for any reasons. Just because simply you're a target to them. I want to mention this mainly for those who may feel this is happening to them. I want you to understand something. And I'm not saying anything new that you probably read or heard on TV. But what I want you to take away is understanding there's something going on with that person. For that person to be that mean, for that person to be an individual that wants to find fault in another person, that person has an issue. So when that person is doing that, I want you to think about that for a second, especially if you're a good-hearted person. I want you to look at that person when they're saying or doing something, understand that they're the ones that has the demons in them. They're the ones that has the problem. They're the ones that have issues. It's not you. They're just trying to look at you and say something because they need a way to make themselves feel good. So if you could try to remember that and compartmentalize that, you would be feeling much better, because knowing, hey, you're probably doing them a favor. Because honestly, you're giving them somebody to talk about just so they can make themselves feel better. So you turn around and say, you're welcome. Say you're welcome. And they'll look at you strangely because they don't understand why you're saying you're welcome. But the thing is, you know what? You're not going to let what they say impact you. But you can say you're welcome because they're trying to find a way to feel better about them. So, we all gone through bullying, including myself. I went through it. And some of the bullying is actually, it's organizational. And let me help you understand that for the young kids. I was in the military. You guys know I was a combat veteran. I was in the Special Ops Unit, Army Rangers. Now, I'm not even going to talk about the Rangers. Let's talk about just regular military. Historically with the military, you are bullied from the moment you get off the plane. In all military branches, well, I don't know about Space Force and I don't know about Air Force, but or National Guard, or maybe even the Navy. I don't know about those guys. But I know in the Marines and the Army, we definitely have a process of when you get off that bus, you're going to go through a process of bullying. You're going to go through, that drill sergeant's going to come at you and talk about you. He's going to talk about your mom. He's going to talk about your family. It's organizational bullying. That's what he's doing. He is basically trying to humiliate you. However, in this particular situation, is designed to bring you down, to humble you, to bring you down so they can build you back up. They want to give you that confidence. They want to show you that you need to listen to me as your drill sergeant, because I'm the person that's going to protect you, and then I'm going to bring you back up. Now, it's unfortunate. There are probably parents out there who feel the same and do that, and they think that's what they're doing. It's not the same, because as a parent, you have to also balance it out with love. I know this from personal experiences. Again, I don't say anything I don't know. My kids will tell you, I will never tell you something that I either don't know or I've actually experienced. And that's one of the things I've experienced, is that you definitely have to balance out any kind of hard discipline with love. And if you have a good wife, or if you're the female listening, you have a good husband, make sure the two of you are team playing. But most importantly, if it's you should do that. There's a time of being disciplined. There's a time of being loving. And you have to show that quickly before you lose that person. So, bullying in the military, not quite the same, because there's nothing for that. It's not personal with the drill sergeant. It's not personal. We've had bullying in various scenarios in the military that was done when we dealt with our enemies. And people have gotten in trouble for that, because again, they were doing it for their personal gain, and that's not something we want to do. So it's never allowed, but if there's an organizational purpose behind it where you're trying to do good by somebody, there might be some justification there. I want you to think about who you are versus how you look. People tend to feel or allow their self-esteem to drop because, I mentioned this earlier about big nose, big lips, but what's more important, the person or the appearance? Okay, I want you to think about that for a second. Is it the person or the appearance? Because you could be somebody who's not happy about how you look, but you could be an amazing person. Or you could be somebody who's really good looking, but you're an absolute jerk. Who's going to have more friends? Okay? People respect somebody based on who they are. They don't respect them because of how they look. If that was the case, and I'm only going to use her name because she's so popular, but like Kim Kardashian, she's always a target. She's a target because, she's, the way her appearance is, people gravitate to the appearance. But in retrospect, there's very little respect because they don't really see much more than that, which is, in my opinion, is probably why she wanted to start doing things to gain that level of respect by getting her, law degree, passing the bar, advocating for prisoners, etc. These are things that are admirable and definitely has created a different perspective about her. Her acting skills has changed and has dramatically improved and gained some respect from her peers in the movie industry, in the TV industry. So again, taking who you are to another level, not basing just on your appearance. We can't always change how we look. We may not have the financial means to do that. I can't, go and I could, but I'm not going to go spend the money to get a nose job. I'd rather go and I don't know, there's not much I think I want. Maybe buy an investment property. I don't know. The point is that there are some things you choose to do and not it's so important. And you may be a young 15, 18-year-old, and it might be very important for you to, have bigger lips or maybe have a breast job or something of that nature. But the thing is, that's not going to necessarily improve your self-esteem because it's possible you're always going to want more and more and more. So why don't we work from the baseline and focus on who we are? Because people are going to really respect that more than anything. Now, there are things we can control. Weight is one. If you have a problem with your weight, work on that. Change your diet. Change how you eat. Go to the gym. These are things you can control. And believe it or not, it's not just genetics. People say, oh no, my mom is big, my dad's big, my grandparents are big. It's genetics. No, that's not necessarily true. There are things we can do outside of genetics to lose the weight. I know that personally because I have literally seen myself at a 160. And I was skinny, and that was when I was in the military. I was 2%, 3% body fat. As a Ranger, special ops, that's, we would go get our cardiovascular done at the hospital, and we're off the charts. I was off the charts. The doctor's looking at this going, what's going on with your heart rate? Because I was a machine. Now, I'm definitely nowhere there now. Obviously, I let myself go, but I'm trying to get some of that back. And I did that not too long ago. About a year ago, I had a weight that was really good and I actually looked good as well. So it's not just your family genetics. You can manage your weight. So with that, if that impacts your self-esteem, make it a plan. Try to figure out what you can do. Find a dietitian coach. Find somebody at the gym. Make a plan. But remember, eating is actually more so than going to the gym. So keep that in mind. Learning how to eat. Culturalistically, a lot of us typically eat certain kind of food because of our family dynamics, what we're used to eating. You go, if you're, Latino, or if you are Filipino, or if we just certain foods you're going to eat, and it may have more carbohydrates related to it. It may have, lard. You may be a family that likes fried food all the time. So you're always eating something fried, because that's all anybody knows in the family, and that's what you have historically been eating. Okay? Or maybe somebody doesn't know how to cook in the family, so you're eating out all the time. And eating out is not good. So these things you have to bring to your attention and make the change. The worst thing you can do is try to compare. I talked about that when I said looking across the room or comparing yourself to somebody like a Kardashian, a Jenner, or any of these nature. Do not compare. You're not them. You did not grow up with the same mother and father, the same genetic makeup. You are who you are, and that is where you have to start with. And so your self-confidence has to begin there. That is what's most important. Understanding the true reality is really where you begin and you go from there. There's a lot of stuff on the internet about getting your self-esteem, understanding, they'll say, oh, you have the 3 C's, competence, confidence, and connection. And then you look over there and somebody says, oh, there's 5 C's. You have competence, confidence, character, and connection, and caring. Everything that's literature, that's available to you by literature is to help you understand. So let me I'm going to leave you with some strategies because I want you to be able to embrace who you are. Remember, my whole point about being a coach is giving somebody the knowledge, the guidance, but at the end of the day, I want you to take that information and figure out how you can take control. I'm not here to be your coach for the next 20 years. I'm not even here to be your coach for, a year, more than a year. If I'm still coaching you at the year, I'm not doing my job. I need to give you the proper foundation so you can build up. That's why I call myself a developmental health coach. That developmental part is all about building you up. The mental health part is basically working with you, who you are mentally, understanding who you are mentally, and recognizing how we can give you the strength to accomplish what you're trying to accomplish. So as your developmental health coach, here are some strategies for you. And I actually have it written down so that way I can make sure I cover some of these things. Use hopeful statements. If your self-esteem is struggling, think of things that will help you feel better. These hopeful statements, write it down. I wish I could remember that TV show, but there was this show of this black woman. It was on one of the paid channels. And I remember what I liked about it was she has sticky notes all over the place. So every morning when she wake up, she would see these sticky notes and she would read it and read it again. And that was her hopeful statements. These things about whatever it was related to being kind, encourage yourself, just different stuff she felt that would empower her. That would be the motivation she needed to move forward. Maintaining that self-esteem gives you the confidence. Sometimes we make mistakes. I mentioned that. We're human. So I want to leave you with the understanding that you need to forgive yourself. If you make a mistake, forgive yourself. We are human. Even our judicial system is designed to forgive us. So if we can go through a court hearing and the peers find you guilty and you have to go do an incarceration period of time, but guess what? It's going to hopefully come to an end, and you're now, after probation, you're forgiven. So at least you can forgive yourself for a very minor thing. If you made a mistake, if you accidentally, did something that hurt somebody, said something, forgive yourself. Seek forgiveness is always a good thing as a first step, but definitely forgive yourself because we all make mistakes. Everyone should and must have must statements. I love this because when you should do this and you must do this, these are the things that's going to give you the confidence and the motivation. So you're going to tell yourself, I should do this. I told you I started, I'm a doctorate student in psychology now, and it takes some motivation to do this. It's not easy because, the truth of the matter is I don't have to do this. I mean, how many people walk around with 3 doctorate degrees? It's, it's very, very rare, and it's definitely, in some aspects, it's overkill. But I have to tell myself, Aaron, you must do this. Aaron, your homework, you should do this. I don't want to have to procrastinate or at least try to explain later why I did not. So I make a schedule to make it a point that I must do my homework, or I should do my homework, or whatever, concept that I'm working on or whatever I'm doing. But it helps me talk to myself. This, I think, is okay, especially speaking in psychology. I think in this perspective, it's okay to talk to yourself. Focus on the positive. The next thing is focusing on positive, which is always, you got to live that way. I struggle with that mainly because I struggle with some other things in my life, but there are things that I find that I gravitate to that gives me some positivity. So just so you know, I do a volunteer rotation in another country where I provide medical service. I absolutely love that. I didn't realize how much I enjoyed serving in this or these communities and in my medical field by working for free and seeing all these different people, these different families. They come through, they're looking at you with their eyes open, with their looks on their face, only to ask you, how can you help them medically? Every single situation is somebody looking to you for assistance. You know, as a coach, I get that. But it's not always, the answers are not always there. It's not immediate. Sometimes it's helped me get to a goal. Sometimes it's helped me work on this. And sometimes the person already has most of the answers and we're just trying to figure things out strategically. We're playing a little chess. But in the medical field, when that person comes in there, when you're sitting there, and I have my translator nurse with me, that person is already without answers. And they're looking to you. So for me, every day when I think about how I can keep my esteem up, I focus on the positive, knowing that at some point I'm going to get to go back to my rotation and I get to be back there where I'm working with all these people that are coming through. There are probably people out there who probably don't like their jobs. Like, I'm just going to say this. I don't know if this is true or not, but let's talk about we have the way hospitals work in this particular country, where they all sit in this gigantic area and they're waiting for somebody to call them up. They actually have their own medical files with them, and they walk up, they check in, they hand it over, and they say, what is it you need? And then they basically will tell you where to go within that hospital. That person who's sitting on the other side of that counter probably doesn't really like their job too much, and is just waiting to the hospital to close and so they can just get out of there. Me, on the other hand, I absolutely get disappointed when I'm like waiting on the next patient and my nurse tells me, okay, Dr. Brian, we're done. I'm like, what? Already? I'm excited to do it again. I specifically work graveyard because I just feel and enjoy the unpredictability of what happens at night. So for me, that keeps me focused on the positive. So you should find something that gives you that same emotion. And that allows your self-esteem to be up there because, again, it's a credit to you. It's a credit to you and what you're doing. So whatever it is that's out there, that is a positive thing because of you. So you should be confident. You should be high on your esteem because you're the one that's a piece of that situation. Another thing is consider what you've learned. We've all learned something over the years in our life from, obviously if it's related to school, as a certification, if you got a real estate license, whatever it is, you've learned something. Figure out what your strengths are on that, because considering that you are the one that knows that, is that the other person? Here's an example. Right now, my truck is at the mechanic shop. I don't know hardly anything about mechanic stuff, but my mechanic does. And if my mechanic is going through a thing where his self-esteem is low, I'm going to remind him, like, look, because of you, my truck is going to be better and it's going to get me to my destination so I can turn around and do what I need to do. So I thank you because you know what you're doing and you're good at it. And for that, I'm going to pay you a lot of money because that is something I cannot do. And many people probably can't do it or do it correctly or do it well. So thank you. How do you think my mechanic's going to feel after that? He may be having a bad day, but I think after I have that conversation with him, his self-esteem is going to be a little better. And that's why he has to keep reminding himself, consider what you've learned. You've applied a lot of years into being a good mechanic. You went through the school and you made your mistakes. And here you are now working on Dr. Brian's truck that's going to get him to a location that he needs to get to so he can be able to help people. That's because of you. I actually had that conversation with him, just so you know. All right. Relabel upsetting thoughts. That ties back into something we said earlier about forgiving yourself. But, upsetting thoughts is you got to change the page. You got to turn that page. Okay. You having upsetting thoughts. I get them all the time. And I'm going to just keep this quick and simple. You got to move on. You have to move on and let it go, whatever it is, because the thoughts can really burden you, and it's not helpful at all. And considering the topic here is about self-esteem, we don't want that. And finally, encourage yourself. That ties back into focusing on the positive. So encourage yourself. Allow yourself to understand that you have a purpose. Your self-esteem is a valuable tool that is basically a component of you moving forward. So if you encourage yourself because you want to achieve something, do something, you want to, focus on, your health, therefore you have to lose 10 pounds, whatever it is, encourage yourself. Encourage yourself by writing it down. Your should and must statements. Write it down every day. Repeat yourself. I'm not saying anything new here. You can Google this, you can YouTube this, and there are going to be other experts out there, and other people are going to tell you the similar things, maybe in a different way. This is nothing new. But I'm just trying to provide you some insight with a different perspective. So, think about that. All right, go back through and understand if you're struggling with self-esteem, this is just some tools and techniques for you to be able to uplift yourself and rise and achieve and accomplish whatever it is you want to accomplish. Just keep it within perspective. If you want to be in the NBA and you want to work, and you're already 40 something years old and you're 5'1", yeah, the chances that's not realistic. Okay, there are some things that we have control over. If you are a black man and you're saying that I want to walk the New York or Paris runway, I'm not saying you can't do that. During Pride Week, you might have a great shot at doing that. I'm not saying no. Just make sure that if it's what you're going to commit to, figure out a way to do it, and then, hey, by all means, knock yourself out. My name is Dr. Bryant. You are listening or watching Coaching to Change. I am very grateful that you had taken the time. My shows are always available on YouTube. However, if you follow me on all the other social media platforms, you'll get a lot of different things, a lot of reels, little, tidbits, quotes. I provide all kinds of things that has been all research, or it's my personal stuff. I don't copy or take anything from anybody. I do my research and I do my homework. But as a PhD, theory and research and data is what we have learned to do. And I take that information and I digest it. I take multiple levels of information and I digest it because honestly, I told you, I'm my first patient. I'm my first client. And I'm trying to figure out things for myself. But then while I'm doing that, I'm sharing it with you. All right, my name is Dr. Bryant. Thank you, and I'll talk to you soon. And remember, somebody's always listening. It's not just, if it's not me, or it's not just me, but somebody's always listening. Take care.